And he said, Shon, how are you going to help yourself or help us and you're not helping yourself? That's when I had to start looking at myself. And I had to start doing the work, because I can't help these men who come into my office if I can't help myself, I can't help them. And that was the beginning of building bridges. Because I didn't want to build a bridge. I wanted to waddle in my pain. I wanted to waddle in my hurt. Listen, my thought was he didn't deserve, they don't deserve another chance. But the crazy thing about it is, have I not gone to the work in the prison, I wouldn't discover who I was. Because I didn't know that I was dealing with so much trauma myself. See, when my father told me that I was too small, and my father didn't support me, and my father didn't validate me, he didn't speak into the man who I thought I should become, I was walking around with that trauma. And it was a prisoner who's still incarcerated, who was doing life. And he looked at me and said, man, how are you going to help me? And you haven't even helped yourself. And so that was the day I had to start looking at me, because when we look at this mirror right here, see, on the outside, when we see these men coming to our agencies, when we're working with people, we see this big burly man, but on the inside, sometimes that's not what's really going on. And he said, Shon, how are you going to help yourself or help us and you're not helping yourself? And then that's when I had to start looking at myself. And I had to start doing the work, because I can't help these men who come into my office if I can't help myself, I can't help them. And one of the hardest things that I had to do, people, I had to forgive the man who murdered my brother. And I'm not going to say that this was about 10 years ago. No, this was 2 years ago. Out here doing this amazing work, working with fathers, I didn't want to forgive him. I didn't want to build the bridge. Because in my eyes, he didn't deserve to have a bridge to be built. He ought to suffer. And when I looked at this image, it made me think that, Shon, you're still living in your own trauma. We're talking about building bridges and harmonizing efforts. The people that we serve, in your eyes, they may not deserve to have a bridge to be built. They may not, and a lot of times, the reason why we say that is because we're dealing with our own trauma or our own experience. See, my 13-year-old, well, she's 16, but 15 now. No, 16, right? 16. My wife gave me the head nod in the back. She gave me the head nod in the back. 16. So last year, here, when I was writing the book, Broken Boys Become Broken Men, I'm like, man, I'm done. I'm so excited. But then I get a phone call from the school, and the school said, this is what they said, Liz. They said, your daughter is suspended. What you mean she's suspended? Not my Shelby. Like, Shelby doesn't like to fight. Shelby doesn't like to argue. She doesn't. And so the lady said, watch this. She said she's suspended for a almost fight. Yeah, see, like, what? A almost fight. Like, no, not my baby. And she said, well, let me go look at the videotape. They looked at the videotape, they came back, they said, yup, she was there. No, she didn't fight, but see, my baby used the resources. So what she did is she went to go get some friends. She went to get her friends. And because she was part of that, she got suspended. And see, that night when we was driving home from her soccer practice, I said, baby, how do you feel? And she started crying. And I'm like, yo, I'm about to call these parents. We need to have a conversation. you hurt my baby. Like, you hurt my baby. And she looked at me, she said, Dad, I'm not crying because of them. And I'm like, yo, why are you crying? She said, I'm crying because of you. What you mean you crying because of me? She says, Dad, you the one who told me to go in and stand up for myself and say something. I didn't want to handle it that way. You made me do that. I'm like, wow, I didn't know that's what I was doing. And on my way home, I realized when I was 13 years old, see that little boy? I was 13 years old. This boy wanted to fight me. His name was TT. Wanted to fight me. And I didn't want to fight him. And my girl cousin came to my rescue. And she stepped in. And I didn't have to have this fight. And it was over. But it really wasn't over. Because everybody remember that Shon didn't fight. And his girl cousin came to his rescue. At 13 years old. So at 47 years old, that 13-year-old boy was still on the inside, giving his 15-year-old daughter at the time advice on how to handle her situation. It wasn't the father, it was that little boy that was on the inside giving her advice, telling her how to navigate this circumstance and situation. Because I didn't do the internal work, that my trauma as a little boy was being placed on my daughter. I wanted her to avenge what this little boy was still suffering with. So I had to have a conversation with him, and I said, Shon, I forgive you. The little boy in me had to tell the grown man, I forgive you. And I had to tell the little boy on the inside, it's okay to be afraid. It was okay at that moment to be afraid. It was okay to not want to fight. I stopped chasing the bag. When I chased the bag, I had to file bankruptcy. When I was chasing the bag, I had a 500 credit score. Just keeping it 100. When I chased the bag, because I was trying to figure, but when I started chasing the assignment, everything shifted. I could sleep well at night. My children could go out in the community and say, yup, my father is the same person in the community that he is at home. Well, my wife could say, yup, he the same person that he is at home, that he is in the community. A lot of people used to talk about securing the bag. How many people want to secure the bag? It's not a trick question. Come on, I like money too. Come on. How many people want to secure the bag? I'm going to help you out. If you don't learn anything else from me tonight, I want you to learn this. I'm going to show you how you secure the bag. You secure the bag by chasing your assignment. I'll say it again. I know you don't want to hear it. But you secure the bag by chasing your assignment. Because if you chase the bag keeps moving. But if I chase my assignment, the bag will chase me down. And so I'm telling you on this side of history, where people wrote me off, where I've written 5 books, where I traveled the country, doing this for a living, because I started chasing my assignment. I stopped chasing the bag. When I chased the bag, I had to file bankruptcy. When I was chasing the bag, I had a 500 credit score. Just keeping it 100. When I chased the bag, because I was trying to figure, but when I started chasing the assignment, everything shifted. I could sleep well at night. My children could go out in the community and say, yup, my father is the same person in the community that he is at home. Well, my wife could say, yup, he the same person that he is at home, that he is in the community. That wasn't always my testimony. So young people, like for real, chase your assignment. Be unapologetic about how dope you are. If somebody say, yo, you did well, don't be like, oh, no, thank you. Step into it. Own it. Own it. Own your greatness. You don't have to be cocky. People don't have to tell me that I'm dope. I know I'm dope. And I'm still humble. I'll be the first one to wash feet. I'll be the first one to help serve. But I know I'm dope. Because my dad told me I was too small. I said, bro, I'll show you. I need you to say this. I know I'm dope. No. 1, 2, 3. I like how you said it. 1, 2, 3. That's my time. Thank you. Has anybody ever heard of this or seen this? Raise your hands. Yeah, right? So this right here, when I was exposed to this, the kintsugi process. So it's a Japanese art when it comes to pottery. And so what happened years ago, is that when the plates would break, what would happen is that people would just throw them away. People would just get rid of them like it was trash. Just like at your crib, like if you break a plate, you break a glass, what happens? You just throw it away. But the gentleman who was the creator of this, he said, listen, we're going to stop throwing this pottery away. And what he decided, he said, we are going to put this boy back together, but we're going to put it back together with solid gold. So the thing that used to be not valuable now has so much more value in its broken state. And the thing about it is that they didn't try to remove the brokenness. They wanted you to see the brokenness. They wanted you to see the brokenness because a lot of us sometimes don't see the value in us. So when you show up, a lot of times they can see what's on the exterior, but don't see the value that's on the inside of you and that you can offer to organizations and companies. And so when people come to my office and we're serving them, they come to me, it look like they're broken on the outside. The men that come to us may have all types of issues. But I train my staff to look beyond what I see on the exterior. You don't know my man's trauma. You don't know what he has gone through to get to where he is at this moment. So when we look at this kintsugi process, that's the people that we see every single day. That's the people that's in this room. Let me ask you this question. Have any of you seen the movie Harriet? Let me see your hands. Seen the movie Harriet? Well, if you didn't, I need you to go watch it. And I just want you to watch this one scene. The scene is when Harriet and her husband was walking up to the slave master. And she had a piece of paper in her hand. And it was telling the slave master that she was free. And there was an agreement between the slave master's grandfather and her grandmother, that when she got to a certain age that she no longer was supposed to be a slave. And so she walked up to my man and showed him, and he asked for the decree, and she gave him the decree. And he looked at her and looked at the decree, and this went on for a few seconds. And you know how the music is in the movie, got real dramatic. And I'm like, man, what's going to happen next? And what happened next, this man ripped up the papers in front of them, sent her husband away, and told her, you'll always be a slave. Yep. So just know I was upset and angry watching that movie. So you'll always be a slave. But the point and the value that I brought out of that, the question is, what if he would have never ripped up the papers? Will Harriet be Harriet? What if some of us was never broken? Would we be who we are today? I tell people this story, and as much as I work with men and I think that I have been healed and all of those things, last year, my daughter was suspended, not because she did something wrong, but because of the instructions that her father gave her. And so my middle daughter is not one that loves conflict, but she came home and she was like telling me or her mom that some people was picking with her. And so I gave her some instruction, right, that wasn't really too favorable. I'll just be honest. And so when I got a call from her school, they said, your daughter was suspended. And I'm like, for what? For an almost fight. Not for a fight, but an almost fight. But this was the thing, is that we went through the whole thing, and when she came home, took her to soccer practice, leaving soccer on the way home, we start talking about it. And I said, baby, how do you feel? And what she said to me, she said, Dad, I'm hurt. And she began to cry. And now Antoine, like, that's my baby. And so now I'm like, yo, when we go back to school, we need to talk to the principal, her parents, everybody need to be in that room. And she said, Dad, I'm not crying because of that. She said, I'm crying because of you. And I knew exactly what she was talking about. See, I gave her instructions from the pain and the trauma of a 13-year-old boy. Because I had unresolved issues that when I was 13, I refused to fight when this boy named Titi, still know his name today, that he wanted to fight me, and I avoided it, and the kids laughed at me. And so here this 13-year-old boy still living in trauma at 48 years old, giving his daughter instructions from the 13-year-old little boy. And I had to own it. And not only did I have to own it, I had to talk to that 13-year-old boy. It says, Shon, it wasn't your fault. It was okay to be afraid. It was okay to avoid it. So I had to give myself permission. And so when we're looking at this is a lot of times, and I'm just trying to keep it, 100. When we're hiring people, when we're creating cultures, we need to just stop hiring engineers. See, I get to leave. I get to leave. So I'm gonna say this, and I get to leave. We need to just stop hiring engineers and start looking at the talent. Looking at what people bring to the table. What's their assignment? Because I could hire somebody because they check all the boxes but have no passion. I was one of the dopest, did I say so myself, chaplains that the state of Michigan ever had. And I didn't just say that, they said it. But this was the thing. I didn't know how to interview. I didn't check the boxes. I was nervous as heck. I didn't know how to answer the problems or answer the questions. But when I got in that position, I murdered it. Because I knew how to connect with people. I had empathy. And so when I'm looking at you, brothers and sisters out here, right? Like when you show up, like when you go for your job interview, like don't cower down. Like you stand up, stand tall. Like know who you are, because you're a gift. Listen. They ought to. When you walk into space like that, like it's like you deserve to have me. I don't have to be with you, Lansing. This is my assignment. I want to be here. I want to beautify this place. But if you say no, I'm gonna go somewhere else. My man.
All right, buddy.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah, you guys were absolutely amazing. To see y'all stand up here bold, right? And share your gift is absolutely amazing. I remember when I was in your seat, I would have been too afraid to do it, right? I would have been too afraid to show people my greatness. I would have been too afraid to show people how dope I really was. And I love to see how you guys stood up here today, even if you was a little afraid. You said, I'm going to still do what God has called me to do. Man, it's amazing when my brother asked me to come. I said yes, and then he switched the date on me. But because of the man that he is, I was willing to switch out. And as he said, that I run an organization that's called Involved Dad. And what we do, we restore relationships and restore families through fatherhood engagement. Because I was a product of an uninvolved father, a father that was disengaged. And so that pain that I felt fueled me to begin my own ministry and begin my work. And so I do that full time, where I work with men and helping them to become better, the best version that their children need them to be, right? And that's what I do 24/7. And so right now at my agency, we got about 25 men who signed up for my program. And so they're there with my staff now, but they're waiting. But I said I had to be here. So we start at 6 o'clock. But I said, I'll be here because I want to pour into you. And so I want to tell you this because I want you to know not only like who you have standing in front of you, because before I leave, I want you to understand who you are. And so I say this because I am you, like for real. I didn't grow up here in Michigan. I grew up in Jersey. I grew up in Jersey and I was athletic. It opened up doors for me to go to school for free. Right? Went to Michigan State on an athletic scholarship. I majored in eligibility. And if you know what that means, I was only doing enough just to stay eligible to play football because that is what I thought I was created to do. And I didn't know anything else outside of that, right? Because people would tell me that I talk too much. People would tell me like, yo, you too small. They would tell me that. And for a moment, I really believed that, right? Until I discovered the gift that I really, really have. And I tell you this to be encouraged. I'm not making this tonight, but when I stand up and speak, it doesn't matter if I speak for 20 minutes. It doesn't matter if I speak for an hour. I make $10,000 an hour to open up my mouth and speak to people. And so I'm telling you this from this aspect that I am you. I graduated high school, the high school I went to, I had less than a 2.0, but I was athletic, so they bend some rules to allow me to come play sports for them. And so that's all I thought I was, but until I started tapping into what my real gift was, and that was inspiring people and working with fathers. Because I didn't want another young boy or another young girl to go through what I went through. And so when you're talking about that you want to be successful, how many people in here want to be successful? And I'm going to just give you 3 points. Number 1, I want you to stop complaining. The question is, why me? Why not you? Why shouldn't you go through the pain? Why shouldn't you go through the agony? I remember when I bought my first Louis Vuitton. Really, it was fake Vuitton. In the streets of New York, I bought that boy and it cost me $75. And I was rocking it like it was real. But I realized this, that I wanted what it looked like. but I didn't want what it felt like because it cost to have something authentic. So if you really, really, really want success, you have to be really willing to pay the price for what you want. This morning I got up and I knew I had to go to the office, and I work out now every single morning, right? But I woke up this morning, I was like, man, I don't even feel like, I said, I'll work out tonight. But I know me, if I go home, if I don't work out in the morning, I'm not working out at night. So let me tell you what I learned. Forget your feelings. I'm going to say it again. Forget your feelings, because your feelings are lied to you. I don't feel like doing it. So what? You don't feel like doing it. If you said that you made a commitment that you want to be successful, that you want to be the best version of you, what price are you willing to pay? And so when we're talking about Black history, you are history. You are history. It's not the Jay-Z's of the world. Jay-Z was somebody just like you, or whoever, Meek Mill, whoever you like, Beyonce, whoever. They were individuals just like us. They took advantage of an opportunity, watch this, in the lifetime of the opportunity. Because you don't know when that opportunity is going to come. And when that opportunity comes, you want to take advantage of that boy. And when I look out here, I'm seeing so many people full of potential. You standing up here singing, and I've seen people up here doing it a little nervous, don't want to be themselves. I used to be afraid to stand up and talk. But now I'm like, no, because babies and people need what I have to say. And it might only be one person. It might only be one person. But that's my assignment for the day. I'm not here to speak to everybody. I came here for one person. That's it, one person. Because I made a commitment to my Creator. I said, yo, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll be willing to pay the price. I didn't want it, but I had to learn how to forgive. I'll say this to you, right? I had to learn how to forgive. I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. He said, I need you to forgive your father. Nah, that's too hard. He didn't treat my moms right. Nah, we good on that. We good. I'm just talking to me. I'm not talking to you. But I said, I'm good. He's like, Shon, yo, how you going to travel the world and travel the country? So you mean to tell me you're going to be a public success and a private failure then? So you want to travel the world, tell people how to be healed and how to do better. Oh, but you want your house to be a wreck. So, bro, I had to be authentic. Like really, it was hard. It was hard for me to forget. I didn't want to. I realized that I wanted him to suffer. I know I may be walking down somebody's aisle, but it's all right. It's a process. We talk about making history. The only way that I can help your fathers is if I do the internal work myself. I can't go and tell your daddy to do better if I'm not going to do better, if I'm not willing to pay the price.